What's up, people? So recently I was going through the X-Men movies again, or at least most of them, and since it's going to be a while before they eventually go into the MCU, I thought I'd do a tier list on them. It's kind of amazing how much this franchise has gotten some really, really good movies, but it also has some really, really bad movies. Like, it's kind of amazing how various it is. So yeah, let's rank them. I don't really have any other preamble, but let's do this. Um, so I want to do. I'm just gonna do these movies in chronological order when they take place. So, yeah. So the first movie to start with would, of course, be X-Men First Class, and I would put this in great. This movie is really good, man, and like James McAvoy is a good Professor X, but Michael Fassbender, he was an amazing Magneto. Like, he is just a really, really good actor. And this is really Magneto's movie, basically. And it does a really good job of having these two sides that are both reasonable. Like, they're both right and wrong, and you can figure out what side you're on. It's similar to Civil War. Both sides are neither right or wrong. They both have their own reasons for being on each side, and they feel believable. First Class does this really well. And yeah, not much else to say. It's amazing. And then comes X-Men Origins Wolverine, which the worst. For me, this is the worst X-Men movie. It is. Whew, it's bad. It's really bad. Like, apparently the movie had a ton of reshoots, and yeah, you can tell. Like, but like the movie begins with him as a kid and killing his dad. So it's like, oh, okay, this is gonna be a cool story. Nope. Then we just jump straight to him going through the war. Like, oh, okay. Are we gonna see him in the wars? Like, that would be a cool movie to do. No, turns out he's on his team of X-Men. Okay, this isn't really an origin movie. Oh, now he's got a girlfriend 6 years later. But okay, and then his brother kills him. Kills her. Wait, what? I don't really care about this girl, but okay. And then he gets the adamantium claws. Oh, okay, we're here already. Okay, what's gonna happen next? Oh, and then he has this old couple that he meets, and I actually care more about them than the girl. Okay, and then he's going after Stryker and blah blah blah. Like, what's happening? Wait, is this an origin movie? It doesn't feel like an origin movie. And then Deadpool, and oh, but I think everybody's already said it, but Deadpool in this sucks. Like, sucks. Like, what were they thinking in sewing the Merc with the mouth? The Merc with the mouth, and they sew it. Like, that's gotta be a huge slap in the face. Yeah, this movie's terrible. Like, especially, like, the more I thought about it, this movie shouldn't have existed. At the end of X2, Logan threw away that locket and said goodbye to Stryker, letting go of his past. He was so obsessed with getting and finding out about it, but then he decides, no, I'm gonna be the man I am now. So now you're just gonna give us his backstory later. So it's like, that just doesn't work. If we know his backstory, that ruins the moment in X2. So yeah. And then jump years later to X-Men, the movie that started it all. I would put this in decent. This was good for its time, but it hasn't really aged well. Like, some CGI looks good, other looks awful. Like, you can tell they're playing it really safe. Like, not Superman Returns safe, but safe nonetheless. But at least I respect it. It does a good enough job introducing these characters. Like, this is a good enough starting point. It introduces Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Patrick Stewart as Professor X, Ian McKellen as Magneto, etc., etc. And yeah, like I think Bryan Singer did the best he could with this. Um, Not much to say. And then we got X2, X-Men United, a huge improvement over the first one. I put in great. Like, not as good as First Class, but X2 is pretty good. Like, it's a huge improvement. Even apparently Singer himself called this the Empire Strikes Back of X-Men, which is a little self-indulgent, but I can see what he's saying. And things are taken to the next level, especially the opening scene with Nightcrawler is pretty darn awesome. And yeah, there's more action. You get to see Wolverine kicking more butt. And yeah, again, best thing is that it takes things to the next level. I mean, it's a pretty good sequel. It doesn't repeat, but continues. So, yeah. After that, we got X-Men: The Last Stand, which, yeah, that's bad. Last Stand's pretty bad. Not Origins bad, but bad. Like, there is so much going on. It's about this. No, it's about this. No, it's about this. No, it's about this. Like, how many characters are in this and how many die too? Like, oh, we got this cool story where we got this Cure storyline that these where it's similar to First Class actually, where there's this divide. Is the cure a disease or is it a helpful thing? Like, okay, that could be an interesting movie. Nope, it's also about the Phoenix Saga, huh? And they don't even do it well because Jean's barely on screen. Cyclops dies, Charles dies, bunch of characters die, and it's like, what's going on? And not to mention, it all feels pointless in the end. And like, oh no, Charles dies. Psych, he comes back in the credit scene. Oh no, Magneto loses his powers. No, he gets him back. Like, how is it like this movie raises the stakes? You can tell they were trying to make it big and epic, but it all amounts to nothing. Especially in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's just so pointless now. Like, wow. With that being said, the action is actually pretty cool. It's actually, out of the three of the original trilogy, it has the best action scenes. Magneto is doing more, especially lifting up the Golden Gate Bridge and crushing cars and throwing them out of the way. But it's still a bad movie. Like, a really awful conclusion to the trilogy. But then we got the Wolverine, and when I rewatched this, I ended up enjoying it a lot better than I initially realized. And I would put it in the good category. The Wolverine is pretty good, it's like the one movie that made Last Stand matter. Logan loses Jean and he's depressed, and there's this really cool story where he's been living so long, like his purpose is it's actually pretty deep. I can't explain it. It's just deep. And not to mention, this is probably the most violent PG-13 movie I've ever seen. Like, you can tell they were trying to get to R rating, but Fox held them back. And yeah, like the climax is probably the lamest part, is what I'm looking for. With this whole Silver Samurai thing, but I'd say it's a good movie, continuing Logan's story taking him to the next level. And yeah, James Mangold proved he can do a Wolverine movie, which he would later prove again with Logan. So that's the Wolverine. And then of course comes the time travel movie, where all of these movies, except for First Class, ends up getting erased. And we get X-Men Days of Future Past, starting a new timeline. Me personally, this is my favorite one. This is the best X-Men movie, at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm just a sucker seeing these two groups of characters in the same movie, but it's really cool. This is basically the Avengers Endgame of X-Men. And like it all feels like this should have been the end. Like Logan's the real end, but except for that one, Days should have been where it all stopped. You know, I love seeing Mystique and her story about trying to stop killing Peter Dinklage. If First Class was Magneto's movie, this is Professor X's movie. Hey, like James McAvoy does a pretty cool job being a depressed guy, and then Patrick Stewart comes in and to help him out. Logan kicks more butt. Magneto kicks more butt, especially lifting that entire baseball stadium. And another thing, since it's a time travel movie, it's much more willing to show more bodies being destroyed. Like, it's got a lot of bodies destroyed and killed, and like it does raise the stakes higher. It's the one I was the most invested in, and it felt so satisfying when it all ended. Again, this should have been the climax of the franchise, but yeah, his Future Past is really good. Bryan Singer really proves he can make a really good X-Men movie. Until the next one, X-Men Apocalypse. So, of course, Days of Future Past creates a new timeline, so all these movies exist in this alternate timeline. And the first one after that is X-Men Apocalypse. And it's almost as bad as Origin, so not all the way there. Oh my gosh, Apocalypse is awful. I actually enjoyed it when I first watched it, but then when I saw it a second time, I was like, oh, I get the issues now. Unlike Days, where he felt like Bryan Singer was putting a passion into it, making it the best X-Men movie it could, Apocalypse just felt like he was on autopilot. Like just doing all the same obligatory stuff you'd come to expect in these movies. Like, it does so many of the tired cliches that we've seen a million times in these movies. Is like, where's Mystique anymore? Oh, she's the leader of the X-Men. Like, okay. Oh, what's Magneto doing? Oh, he's got a family? No, he's the bad guy again. Magneto's the bad guy for like, what is this, the 8th movie in a row? Like, I love Magneto, but how many times do we have to see him as the villain? And Apocalypse is also a terrible villain. Like I don't even know Apocalypse I don't read the comic, so I don't really know him from the comics, but even still he's a terrible villain. Like the design is really lame. Seriously, I don't know what they were thinking with his design, the costume. Oscar Isaac is so horribly miscast. Like, I was never once threatened by him. Like, maybe a little when he decapitated those guys, but then he never uses that power again. Oh, and then he releases a bunch of nukes. Like, oh, I plan to destroy the world. So obviously what I'm going to do is send the nukes down to Earth to destroy the world. Nope, I'm going to send them into space. Send nukes into space. What? Why? Yeah. This is just terrible. This one's really bad. At least they were cool about it when. At least remember that there's that one scene, where they walk out of the theater for Return of the Jedi, and they're like, "Well, at least we can agree the third movie is always the worst." And at least they realize that. So there's that. Yeah, a disappointing movie. This one, like after Days, you like it felt like Singer was back and was like, "Oh, so he's gonna make another good one." But no, this one was just felt like he was on autopilot. And then there was Dark Phoenix. Okay, so a lot of people say this is the worst one. It's bad, but I think Apocalypse and Origins were so much worse. But yeah, Dark Phoenix is pretty bad. Like, Magneto's the bad guy again. I am just so sick of that at this point. So sick of him. seeing him as the bad guy. Like, can you pick someone else? Oh, no, never mind. You got aliens in the end, and they have this generic plot of taking over the world. At this point, I've just lost all interest. Like, okay, unlike Apocalypse, where it felt like the whole thing was on autopilot, Dark Phoenix, I felt like they were trying. I felt like the director and screenwriter Simon Kinberg, he was trying. Like, there was this divide. It's somewhat of another divide. What do we do with Jean? And do we try to bring her back or do we kill her? I mean, it's stupid because Magneto's a bad guy again, and Beast uncharacteristically wants to kill her. But there's this cool, interesting divide, especially after Mystique dies. So it's like, okay, are we gonna? This is like, again, I felt like he was trying, but then it all went downhill when the climax comes in. Like, the climax is where I really felt like it was just going to trash. Like, yeah. Oh, and I don't have much else to say. It's a pretty bad movie. Like, this was the conclusion to the series, and it's bad. It's not a good conclusion. Like, no. Like, thank God Disney now owns Fox, so now Marvel can get the Phoenix Saga done right. At least better than what Last Stand and Dark Phoenix were trying to do. So, yeah. And then these last four, the New Mutants is the last PG-13 movie here. I don't know when it takes place in the timeline, so I'll just talk about this one next. I'd put New Mutants in bad. Like, similar to some of the other ones, this one had a ton of reshoots. Well, no, not reshoots, but not the traditional reshoots. Like, something about, apparently there were a bunch of writers fighting, trying to figure out what the story was going to be. And yeah, this movie felt like there were so many random ideas being thrown in, and it just didn't really mesh well. Like, it's one of those movies where I felt like they weren't sure what they were trying to do. And honestly, I have to remind myself I saw it. It's very forgettable and how generic it ended up being. Oh, and they fight a bear. Like, okay, that's their climax, I guess. Yeah, not much else to say. The most memorable thing about it is that it got delayed so many times. So after that, then we get the 3 R-rated movies. Let's, of course, start with Deadpool, which really popularized the R rating. Now, every year, we get an R-rated comic book movie. In 2016, we had Deadpool. In 2017, we had Logan. In 2018, we had Deadpool 2. In 2019, we had Joker. In 2020, we had Birds of Prey. And in 2021, actually, we got 3. Zack Snyder's Justice League, The Suicide Squad, and Venom Let There Be Carnage. That's going to be pretty cool. But Deadpool. Yeah, this is pretty good. I put it in the good category. Like, it is such a redeems. It's a better character than the one we got in Origins. Like, man, did this make up for that. I did find out, apparently Ryan Reynolds was really working his butt off to try and get this movie off the ground. Like, he was working hard, and it paid off, man. Especially with the low budget they had, which I've heard people say it actually worked in their favor. And yeah, this is a really fun movie. Yeah, yeah. Deadpool's funny. Love seeing him break the fourth wall, and yeah, not much else to say. It's a really fun movie. It popularized it showed that the R rating does make money. So, yeah. And then there's Deadpool 2, which, I'll be honest, I thought this was more enjoyable than the first one. I found myself having a lot more fun with this one. Like, the jokes landed better. Or maybe it's Josh Brolin as Cable. Like, man, I love Josh Brolin, especially when he was Thanos. He does not disappoint as Cable. Like, I, I don't know. I just love Josh Brolin, and not much else to say. This is probably the most fun movie out of all of these. Is and yeah, and then of course the final movie chronologically is Logan. Yikes! Yeah, I'd put that in great. Yeah, I prefer First Class in Days, but Logan is definitely up there. Like, man, this one was depressing. When I first saw it, I honestly didn't expect it to be so darn depressing. It's like, holy cow! Oh, that yeah, it does a really good job finally ending Logan's story. Like, you can tell James Mangold, the director, had a lot of passion put into this, and it was also heartbreaking seeing Charles that way, especially the way he died. And oh, at least Laura was cool. Like, not depressing. Laura was awesome, and it was sad seeing him die. Logan die. Um, yeah, not much else to say. This was a very depressing movie, but it still had hope in it. Like even though people grow old, you can still make a difference in the world. Like Logan ended up like saving mutant kind, so the new mutants can and do their thing. Um, yeah, like not much else to say. I love Logan. So yeah, that's my X-Men movie tier list. Is number 13, Origins. Number 12, Apocalypse. Number 11, Dark Phoenix. Number 10, The New Mutants. Number 9, The Last Stand. Number 8, X-Men. Number 7, The Wolverine. Number 6, Deadpool. Number 5, Deadpool 2. Number 4, X2. Number 3, Logan. Number 2, First Class. And number 1, Days of Future Past. Like, this franchise definitely has some terrible movies, but it has some really good ones. Like, people really hate. I've seen people on Facebook really hate on these movies, but yes, a lot of them are bad, but 5 of them, at least for me, are really, really good. In a great tier, I put them. And yeah, like I don't entirely hate this franchise. Like like First Class, Days, and Logan are the 3 X-Men movies that really prove to me that X-Men can work fantastically on the big screen without Marvel's help. But but then there are others, especially the Dark Phoenix saga, that proves, yeah, Marvel needs to take over. Marvel needs to get these characters in here. So yeah, that's about it. Not much else to say. Can't wait to see these characters in the MCU. And that's the end. Peace.